Hello, everyone. I am going to do the intuitive patterns for the month of May 2016. It presently is April, and it's the end of April, and it's beautiful here in Northern California. The sun is shining. We've had a little bit of rain, and it just feels lovely. So I can't wait for us to move further into spring. But May, let's talk about May. I'm going to take this in a couple of chunks. So there's a lot going on in the retrogrades for the month of May. And so I'm going to do the normal forecast, which is with the cards, and a little bit of the astrology. And then I'm going to dive further into the astrology because of all the retrogrades that are happening. So bear with me. May is a month of change. Each of us is being called to step into a more mature place in our life where we take responsibility for our choices and our actions. None of us can afford any longer to be caught up in these knee-jerk reaction to external situations. It is time to kind of sit back, observe, calculate, and make choices that are clear and concise for what we intend to create in the future. Yes, there is shadow everywhere, and that shadow is pecking at us to wake us out of our slumber and into a place of responsible action. There is a calling in the astrology and the cards for us to look at the truth and to speak the truth from a place of peace and respect for others and all of life. So, how do we find that inner rebel that is willing to break out of the chains of our old conditioning and move from a place of power, wisdom, and action? How do we temper our sadness with justice and become centered in a reality where we can all work together? The answer is to find the rhythm that is under the surface of the chaos and the upset. There is a place where you are not caught in the tumultuousness of life, that you can find the organic space and time to flow with the new trends and consciousness that is attempting to evolve you past the places of upset and into the possibility of new solutions. Those solutions are there once you choose to let go of the patterns of the past that you cling to as a life raft of familiarity. But safety is never real. And believing that you are safe, if you go backwards, is a potentially harmful illusion at this point. We are in a place where we need new ideas and new solutions to the situations that are coming to a critical mass point in the world. So many of them are piling up that there's this feeling of helplessness and despondency. It seems that there is too much, so there cannot be solutions that will work. But that is a lie that the mind and the ego tells you to make you fall into despair and hopelessness. And yes, the solution is not one that you can recognize when you look through the eyes of the past. It is only with the eyes of the future that you can see beyond the old world's limitations and come up with balanced and honest new ways that will have to be worked at and ironed out to find solutions to problems that our world has not witnessed or experienced up to this point. Fearful minds fall into patterns of the past. Calm minds seek answers while sitting in the silence and solitude of non-dual consciousness. Patterns created from fear and from the past only recreate history that we were supposed to learn something from, so we will do something different in the future. Humanity is notorious for going back again and again and doing what did not work then, yet somehow they think it will work now. Our memory is limited in registering the suffering of our ancestors. It is our job now to remember the past in an honest fashion and believe in the tools and the fresh eyes of a new generation who want to take us beyond the known and into the potential that is human existence if we can just get beyond our fear, judgment, and the need to be right and superior over others. Together, we can find the doorways. More and more of our world is becoming a global system rather than the individual countries. It's time to take that to a new level by finding the pathways to peace and prosperity together. So, I'm sure everybody has been noticing all of the politics and the fish dying and all of these very scary sort of things happening. And it is making everybody fall into a tremendous amount of fear and feeling really, really stuck. And the astrology is sort of agonizing this along, if that would make any sense. So I wanted to kind of go through the retrogrades, and please know that we have retrogrades all the time, and yes, retrogrades have effects, and yes, they kind of pile up, and yes, this particular one seems to be a series that is really making everybody feel a little pinchy. So, well, with everything going retrograde, I just want to say that the shit is going to fly for quite a few people for a while. Tension is high, and there are moments when you will just want to lose it and scream. Now, I know in reality that is not the best idea, but the tendency is very strong. So even if you control your temper, know that not everyone else is going to be able to do that same, the same way as you. So much is going retrograde. So Pluto is retrograde until the 26th of September in the Sirius sign of Capricorn. So when Pluto goes retrograde, it forces you to focus on your own personal shadow sides, specifically the unpleasant parts of your personality that you may not really like. Two big themes that Pluto likes to highlight are power and desire. With Pluto retrograde, you will have to get honest with yourself about how much you are motivated by a need for recognition, money, and authority, and choices and decisions about how you are going to progress forward with your life. And all of that is sort of up in a very big way. You have to look at what is really motivating you, money or helping others. I personally choose the latter. I know for myself, this has been really a kind of a tricky time. In the pattern of the recession, I don't care what the stock market says. I don't care what anything else says. There is this feeling of constriction, and nobody's really feeling super abundant yet. And so the flow of the money and the abundance of the money has not happened. And so people are getting very desperate, and they want to suddenly charge exorbitant amounts of money for things that are people really just can't afford to pay for. So I look at it for myself because I'm a person who will spend a tremendous amount of money on my meditation courses or personal growth workshops or breakthrough processes or acupuncture. And what I can tell you is that, I've spent a lot of money on this, but even me at this point, I can't spend the kind of money that I spent in the 90s. So our recession that we've been in, nobody is feeling really abundant. So this mentality that people say, which is I'm just going to increase this, rate to this exorbitant amount. It's the economies really can't handle that right now, and they probably won't be able to handle that all the way until 2017. So we're still in this very constrictive, tight, sort of crunchy place. So be careful with your money, be careful with your choices and decisions about money and how you are defining yourself based on the money, and that's related to the Pluto retrograde. So at the same time, the Pluto retrograde will make you confront the darker sides of what you want. For example, are you working hard to get in shape because you are truly concerned about your health? Or are you spurred on by a desire for revenge on an ex who didn't appreciate you and think you were pretty? So motivation under a Pluto retrograde becomes really important. With the Pluto retrograde for 5 months, this period of personal reckoning allows you to do a lot of purging also. Once you see the traits in yourself that you dislike, you can work to improve them. You can also revisit old hurts and hang-ups, as Pluto tends to shed light on the darker corners of your experiences. In this way, you get to grow, which highlights Pluto's key role in your life, transformation. Now, Saturn is also retrograde until the 13th of August in Sagittarius, forcing us to address what we believe and what we're willing to work towards. The old reality is being broken down by the Neptune in Pisces, so there's a lot of water, which is emotion, melting through the structures of your life that have gotten you to this point. It's time for some new structures, and that means that you're going to have to rebuild, just as if a hurricane tore down your old house. Everything is going to feel kind of like a mess, and you're going to have to let it all go and rebuild from the ground floor up. Whatever you do, create something very different. So let the past be the past and build a new dream rather than create your old world dream. Neptune is retrograde from the 13th of June until November 20th. When Neptune turns retrograde, your feelings are more astute at picking up and perceiving the elusive. It's easier to ascertain information about issues that have eluded you while Neptune was direct. It is essential that you do something about the problems that you picked up on while Neptune is retrograde, because they can worsen when Neptune goes direct if you haven't addressed them or fixed them. I personally have noticed that if you do not work on an internal level while Neptune is retrograde, you will be plagued by feelings of disillusion and vague dissatisfaction as it moves forward. As one's perceptions become more acute, it is important to listen more and listen to the inner voice so that you can see more of what's going on around you. It's essential that you talk about what you are feeling, sensing, or absorbing, because Neptune retrograde can produce a type of psychic overload for the very sensitive people, a heightened sensitivity that can be both an asset and a liability. So before we get to the Neptune retrograde, my suggestion is a lot of body work for people, a lot of cleansing, a lot of clearing, a lot of getting rid of clutter, a lot of cleaning things out. Like, create some space around you, because you're going to want to fill that space with things that actually support you, protect you, and help you stay really balanced and aligned. Now, Neptune is the planet of illusion, delusion, bewilderment, hysteria, madness, dreaminess, and falsehood. And so it's important for you to avoid drugs, chemicals, and stimulants while Neptune is retrograde. So protect yourself by refraining from associating with people that have addictive personalities. Be aware of like weird psychic attractions to people, or people that are overwhelming, that suddenly drain your energy. Sometimes wearing black tourmaline has the ability to funnel off negative energy and psychic attack. The other thing I really like is blue topaz. So if you're feeling a little paranoid under or during this retrograde, you are picking up too much from your external environment. And so cultivating in your home an environment that's very musical, peaceful, calming, watery, and fluid is great. Uranus is retrograde from the 28th of July until the 29th of December. Uranus tends to be more potent and more Uranian when it's retrograde, and it's in Aries, which is a fire sign, so it's kind of like an electrical firestorm. When Uranus is direct, you can feel intuitive, inventive, impulsive, and flow really well. But when it's retrograde, this energy kind of builds to a certain level and it explodes forth as some big experience. So it kind of like builds a charge and then it goes boom all of a sudden. So this building up process you want to be aware of during that retrograde, and try and diffuse things before they get so heated and so big and so volatile that you lose kind of control about how the direction of that energy is going. So Uranus tends to be more potent and more willfully dogmatic. Uranus's retrograde motion tends to stimulate deep psychological investigation and analysis. Its research, however, seeks answers that satisfy the mind and explains why. So I would expect people to make mountains out of molehills, and they want to know why. And until they know why, they're not going to relax and be at peace. So obviously, this is an excellent time for mental studies that explore human behavior and psychology. It favors activities that require bursts of inventive and intuitive energy. It favors counseling sessions, looking at yourself psychologically, or doing breakthrough processes, and connecting you with places where you need freedom, and disconnecting patterns of relating that really no longer work. Now, Mercury is going retrograde on April 28th to May 22nd, and this is causing more mass communication challenges and feelings that your voice are not being heard. It's retrograde in Taurus, which is an earth sign, and so you really want to back up your computer systems and stay really grounded and stay really practical, and take care of your physical health and move in a slow, consistent sort of way if you possibly can. And finally, Mars is retrograde from April 17th to June 29th. And this creates a drag in the energy and a feeling of a stalling effect in your world. Mars is the planet of energy, gumption, and drive. So expect all of that to be a bit out of whack when Mars goes retrograde. So as I'm doing this right now, Mars is retrograde, and I can tell you even for myself, and I am a fire sign, so Mars is a fire planet, so I tend to feel Mars a little bit more maybe. But Mars is retrograde, and boy, it's just like getting yourself going. Like, okay, I'm going to go exercise. I'm going to go get on the elliptical. I'm going to Zumba. I mean, you really have to focus and say, no, 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 I'm not going to let this Mars energy retrograde kind of pull me backwards. So what you want to be careful of in a Mars retrograde is don't create deadlines that you can't keep. And Mars is going to go retrograde, and it's going to back up into Scorpio, and that pulls everybody really into a morose, internal, complex, moody spot. And we probably won't feel better until Mars it goes back into Sagittarius, which is around the 2nd of August. And then you should feel a lot better, okay? So remember to take care of yourself during the spring into the summer. It's going to be a long and busy spring and summer. And it's not bad. I mean, if you just kind of know what you're in for, it's like if you kind of go, okay, that's that Mars retrograde not giving me the energy. I probably need to create a schedule or a structure so that I feel better and I can feel more balanced in this. I hope that helps. I hope it gives you a few insights in how to go forward, and enjoy the month of May and into the spring and into the summer. Thanks. Bye.